I'm Coach Tarek.
And I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Paul.
We are your movement experts, and we are here to educate health and fitness professionals with the tools to create real change for and within the industry.
Hey everyone, Paul here from Purpose Driven Movement, and today I'm here with my co-host Vanessa, where we're going to ask her some questions about her background, where she's come from, and her experience with the fitness industry over the last 7 years. So Vanessa, pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, this is a different experience being the guest for a change over here.
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? Because I haven't hosted a podcast before this. I have had my own podcast where it's me just talking out of mic and being a guest on time. But now I'm on the other side where it's interviewing. It's very, very different.
It's fun.
It's very, very fun, bro. I'm enjoying it a lot. So first question, exercise to experience. I love the name. I would really like to dive into the name, where it came from, what it means, because I have a feeling the experience part has something to do with retention and making exercise part of members' lives or participants' lives. So I'd really like if we could go into that and then go down that path.
The name is special to both Emma and I. So Emma is my business partner for Exercise to Experience, and we founded it together. And it came about through, we got to open up a brand new concept club for a company called Virgin Active. And it was a small boutique concept. And we had 3 classes in each, like in this one space. And it was incredible. It was such a great space. And throughout this journey of trying to open up this boutique space, Emma and I had both had really different experiences because we were coming at it from 2 really different angles. So she is an incredible group instructor cyclist, like teaches courses on it, has taught courses on it, is one of the most incredible instructors in that space you will hands down see anywhere in the world. And I was coming at it from teaching group exercise in that space, not cycle at the beginning, but also because I was becoming a PT there. And the whole idea and the concept around this space was we wanted to just make exercise irresistible. We wanted it to be this fun, creative, like really different, amazing space that people could just really love. And we loved that experience so much, the experience of actually creating that and coming up with the programs and the ideas and all of that. And throughout the opening of this gym, both her and I were presenting at different conferences, and we were both working in the same kind of space where we were educating people. And we sat together and we kind of were at conference one year and we were like, there's nothing for group exercise in this space. And we decided at that time, I think it was 2019, that we really needed to get something into the group exercise space. So we made a pact that we would get something out there. And so we presented together at Filex in 2019, and our sessions were really well received. We just spoke about group X more as a concept. And then from there, really grew into a course. And I remember sitting together with her where she rented an apartment in Sydney. We were like in this room, like writing furiously about all of our concepts. It was a really great experience. It came out, and experience is the only way that we can describe it, because everything that happens to you in your life that's worth remembering is an experience. And experience is also multifaceted in the way that you can use it as a word, just because we're in English. So of course it is. So experience is something that you can have over time. So you grow in your knowledge and your expertise, and that's experience. You have that. An experience is a moment in time where you can be immersed in something, and then you have that memory as an experience. And collectively, it can really be transformative, or it can be very memorable. And that's the concept that we wanted to use, because at the end of the day, we know how transformative group exercise is for us, and we know how transformative it is for people who come into the industry, who participate. And we think that it is one of the best ways to get more people involved in health and fitness in any aspect. And to do that, we want to create experiences that people love and that they can't stay away from. I think that if you come at exercise from an experience perspective, then seems less like a chore.
I like it. I'm very much down the one-on-one model. Like I've always worked one-on-one. I qualify as a group fitness instructor back in the days where you had to go and coach a class, and I had to do my grapevine and all that stuff. So fond memories of that, my high-level coordination. What I found with the PT over a long time, like I went very much down the technical nerd way of doing it, like very technical, biomechanical orientated, etc. And I'd find that a lot of the time for a client who is a beginner, someone coming to exercise, coming to that realm, overwhelming them with technical stuff, kind of set them back really, really far. I didn't know any better at the time. I learned eventually in 10 years. So I'm a fast learner. Found was that, yeah, particularly when opening up a gym and we moved more into the semi-private, it was literally the cultivation of an experience which led to high amounts of retention. And that's something that I've tried to teach all my students that I currently work with, etc., to encapsulate the entire thing into an experience for your clients, because I think it's something that's so all encompassing and something that like you can apply to so much. Like you can apply the experience to the onboarding process. You can apply the concept of experience to how well your little app uses your online coach. Like, is it an easy to use experience? I think what you guys got there, like, I think you kind of struck gold. How do you apply it? That's probably the best question. How do you guys apply it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you kind of hit a nerve with me there as well, because I'm a technician. I have a degree in exercise physiology. I started my honors in exercise physiology. I'm a biomechanics nerd, and I go deep into like anatomy, fascial anatomy. I love the technicality and the science behind exercise. And a big part of what I saw that what was lacking in the group exercise space was the technicality of the knowledge of the instructors. The industry devised that there was no need, and quotation marks, there's no need for them to be technicians because they're leading a group. And in my mind, I actually think that you need to be one of the best technicians to lead a group. I think that you need to have yourself impeccable form, number one, because you're demonstrating pretty much everything of what you're doing. And so if your form isn't exactly on point every single time you're instructing, then the message that you're sending straight away with just your form is watered down to absolutely everyone in front of you. So that's the first point of a technician, is that you need to move well yourself and know your limitations. And you don't have to be the best mover in the room, but you should know how to demonstrate something well. And the second part is that people have this affinity and this love for group exercise instructors. I don't know if you've seen it in the past.
They have the dedicated fans out there, like, 20 minutes for each class waiting outside. I have seen it many times.
Yeah, fans, and like actual fans. And that's totally fine. But I don't see many PTs with a fan group, if that makes sense. There's a difference. And that fan group asks questions, and they want to know about the group exercise instructor, and they can sometimes almost revere them to a negative point, but like they revere them, they want to emulate them. And I think that the instructor having that technical knowledge, having knowledge, holistic knowledge of the human body is so important, because they have the opportunity to influence so many people so quickly and so much more broad scope than an individual PT. I can't actually quite fathom why there's less education for a group exercise instructor, when both Emma and I believe that they're actually much more influential in our industry than a solo PT.
I see like all the time, like PTs are like a lot of time in one of the gyms I go to, the group fitness form is just like, it makes me a little ill. To be frank, and the gym itself is fantastic. The facilities are fantastic. The class structure is fantastic, but the instructors, they certainly don't create an experience there. But there are other instructors, particularly in the spin area, who create an experience. And he's got these two dedicated fan base, and I see exactly what you mean. And they literally just follow him around to every single thing he does. You don't see it with PTs.
Yeah, and I think that the big thing about this is that that's where the disconnect happens in our industry. And again, this is something that I'm passionate about, and I'll go a bit deeper into experience in a second, but there's a disconnect between PTs and group exercise instructors, because the PTs end up being the technicians. They end up being, I've got to work on your biomechanics, and I know anatomy, and I know all of these things. And then they see the form of the group exercise instructors, and they automatically dismiss it as terrible. Now, I'm not saying that it is terrible, because the instructor that might be the best thing for the people in front of them that day. Like that class might be the best thing that's happened to the people in that class. And we can't discount that in fitness, in our mental health, in our emotional health at all. I think that's way more important most of the time than having, 100% correct biomechanics. However, there needs to be a little bit more crossover. And at the moment, I feel like they're two completely separate pillars of our industry. And throughout my entire career, I have broached both. I have been both a group exercise instructor and a PT, and neither have competed. They have always complemented each other. And every time I learn something in one space, it directly benefits the other. There's no competition in my mind for both of those experiences, funnily enough, influencing what I've become today and the knowledge that I have and the desire for me to want to create that for more people coming through.
Basically, exercise experience, one aspect of exercise experience is breaking that invisible divide. Because I remember like the conferences back when they used to happen all the time, there was the PT one and there was a group exercise one. And they're just like, some of the group exercise stuff, like no offense, group exercise was terrible. Like here's a new device you can use for your aqua class. Like that was the whole seminar. And I'm like, aqua aerobics is like, because I'm a qualified deep water running instructor and worked with multiple Olympians in their rehab for running. Like it's a way where we can kind of keep the conditioning going on. And like that stuff's hard. And there's some really cool physiological stuff that you can do there. And it's like group exercise, is getting, here's a new tool you can use. I'm like, it can do better. Whereas the PT stuff is like trying to be all biomechanical and, really optimal for everything. Yet PTs aren't getting adherence. PTs aren't getting retention. Whereas the group exercise guys are absolutely kicking their butt in getting people into the gyms and actually probably getting better results, because even though it may not be optimal as such, it's inherent. It's an experience. They enjoy it. They stick to it. They stay there. They get better. It's like consistency is the biggest thing, right? So it's really cool that you're bridging that gap. And it's funny that you said how everything complemented each other. Your one-on-one versus your group stuff, it fit together. I really found that myself, and speaking in the fitness industry now, is when I moved to a semi-private model. Because semi-private training it is the culmination of group exercise and one-on-one training. And we started in our gym 15, 16 years ago, and there was no one to teach us anything, but I literally read it on a book from Alan Cosgrove that I ordered from the States. He's like, semi-private training is more profitable per square meter. And I just went, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to work it out. Stupid. But if I had some group exercise experience, I could have made that whole platform so much easier for my members, so much easier for myself, but also far more beneficial.
Yeah. You dived into like those few things that I'm really passionate about there, is that group exercise instructors generally are some of the most passionate people in the industry that I see. They work themselves to the bone. They're teaching like 20 or 30 classes a week. They genuinely love it. You wouldn't be able to do it unless you genuinely loved it. And that's what comes across when you teach a class that you really love. People see that passion and that enthusiasm and that energy, and you can't help but be drawn into that. And that's the infectious thing about exercise. And that's the thing that I really love. The PT side of it, unless you're great at connecting with people, it doesn't matter how good of a technician you are. You won't get any retention. You still have to have a relationship with the people in front of you and connect. And for group exercise instructors, I think that they're generally much better at the energy and enthusiasm. Everyone in the industry can generally do better at the connection piece. And part of what we teach is how to be well-rounded, even to the point of semi-privates, because communication in our industry is pretty much the foundation. It's the only thing that we sell. And it's so easy for people to jump online and do a group fitness class online or go find a program. So what brings people to you face-to-face, or what brings them to you online, even if you are an online coach? It's your ability to connect with them. It's your ability to find something that they love, a common ground that they'll want to do again and again. And without a foundation of good communication and self-awareness, you can't do that. You can't send those messages. Yeah. And being a good communicator, which is our strongest point, it's like half of our entire course that we teach, is beneficial to so many people, even sometimes across industries. So if you want to become a better presenter, if you want to stand up and do presentations, this is the kind of training that you need, because you're standing in front of a group trying to convey a message, and you need to be seen, heard, and felt. Again, like your presence needs to be felt in the room for people to then either say that was a good experience, or that was a great experience, or that was a terrible experience. I'm never going back to that person ever again. If you go back into yourself and you think about any live face-to-face experience that you've had, maybe it was a music festival or a show or something like that. What was the reason why it was so memorable? It was because you felt something.
You felt something, you connected, you were part of something bigger than yourself.
100%. And tapping into that as a coach, as an instructor, as a PT, whatever you want to call it, that's the magic. That's the experience. And when you tap into that, you have the ability to be so influential, so transformative, but also just live your passion. I love teaching group exercise, and I want my room to be full every single time I teach, because that means I know that the people who are there in front of me are genuinely coming in, they're making themselves better. They have a fun time, a great class. And honestly, I can say there's very little other buzzes that come throughout my life that make me feel as good as that. That's when I deliver a really great group exercise class. And the energy is reciprocal, right? So they get energy, the members get energy, they're having a great time, they move their bodies, they feel good. I feel good because I see that. I see their energy, I see their happiness, I see they're moving well, and I can see progression. So yeah, I think you can probably hear it. I love it. You know what I mean? I think it's so important to our industry, and it's been forgotten, particularly by big box. It's just group exercise is just let to run.
Yeah, it runs itself, apparently.
Apparently it runs itself, and more than 40% of most big box members are attending group exercise, and it's just kind of let to run itself. And I think only really in the last couple of years since the pandemic have people realized how truly influential group exercise is, and that they actually probably need to invest a little bit more into it.
Very cool how you said that, and how it all drops down in communication, because I think, yeah, in my podcast, and Tarek, where he interviewed me, it literally all boiled down to communication all over again. And my communication was more on a one-on-one scope. And the whole thing I talked about was trying to create an experience inside someone where they recognized the problem, and they felt that experience where they went, oh, I can do something about this, and facilitate that growth, where what you're doing is you're facilitating experience where someone feels good, which encourages them to keep on doing more of the same, which is a helpful experience for that person. So
yeah,
very, very cool. So, and you said, what was the quote? I should have written it down, but you said there were 3 components. It was, the last one was feel.
Yes. It's kind of like how you present yourself, what you say, and then how you make people feel, really.
So with that one there. So what you say, how you say it, and how you make people feel. What's the kind of like the biggest challenge that people have in facilitating that? Because that, I think if you could just get that across to people, like the actual ability to help people feel something, is probably the most transformative thing that a listener could take away.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, we would be personal to each and every person. From my experience and my point of view, I think that there is a lack of understanding from the instructor exactly how transformational and how powerful they are, because they're not told that they are from our industry perspective. So I think that a little part of it is that when the instructors have this self-belief, when they have their self-worth, that what their message is important, that their class is important, that they're transformational, that's a really good first step. The second step is then competency, because without competency, you generally have lower enjoyment. And that's competency all around. So I'm talking about the instructor needs to be super competent in understanding their craft, what they're delivering, how they teach it, how they're viewed, all of that stuff. But then you also have to give competency to people. And that's one of the most fundamental parts of our job, is that if we don't have belief in our competency, then it's really hard to transfer that to someone else. And those are kind of like the foundations that you can lay upon to then make people feel something, because everyone in your class will feel something different depending on the way that you've expressed their competency. So I'll give you an example. I've got a beginner coming into my high intensity bodyweight class. They've never done it before. I need to set the scene for this beginner, someone coming in. So I would always greet them, explain to them what's happening into the class. I want to give them a sense of safety, but I also want to make sure that I connect with them. The biggest lacking part in our industry is either that the start of the exercise doesn't allow people to feel safe enough to return, or what happens in the middle of the class doesn't allow people to feel safe enough for them to return. So we're at the start of the class. I tell them what's going to happen, what's expected of them. I might even say something like, you might find this challenging. You might be out of breath. You might feel like the work and the rest might be really hard. Remember, at any time, take a rest for yourself. There's no judgment. I want you to feel happy. I want you to feel like you're a part of what we are doing, but you do you. I'm here as a guide. So I want to set that expectation from the beginning. And I think setting expectation is really key in group exercise, because then we call it onioning or cake layering in what we do. We then layer that throughout the class. So as I'm teaching, I'll go through the movements, and then I'll go around and I make sure I connect with every single person in the room, new, veteran, all of them. And I'm going to repeat that message regardless of who's there. Team, I want you to feel this. We're working at a 6 out of 10. I want you to feel some burn in your legs. Remember, if you need to take a rest at any time, do it. Or I'll ask them about their energy level. If you're feeling like a 10 out of 10 today, go for it. Like, really go for it. If you don't feel like a 10 out of 10, maybe just, hang back a little bit, and that's fine. And what that does is it allows people to explore their bodies. It allows them to ask questions about their bodies. And then when you give them competency, when you ask the right questions, they can then do what's best for them.
And you're teaching RPE.
Well, I use RPE because, science, but you can use whatever you want, right? So then that competency, that feeling of safety is established and reestablished again and again throughout the class. So then I can start to drip in little bits of them feeling something. So I might take a moment of vulnerability for me. So if I'm the instructor, I might say, I've had a really hard day today. I wasn't feeling great. Every time I step into this class and I see you moving with me, I feel such a sense of energy. It makes me so happy. Thank you for joining me today. You give me so much. I've said nothing about them, but I've allowed them a little piece of information about me, and I'm allowing them to connect, to feel something. Some people might not connect with that, but other people might be like, oh, I felt a bit shit today. Oh, I wasn't feeling great today. Oh, yeah, okay, awesome. This is why we do things. Those small little statements are so profoundly important throughout your class, but you can't make the whole class about you. So then you might say later on in the class, based on how you feel, can you decide today just to take it to that next step? What will be that next step that'll push your fitness a little bit more, maybe push your strength a little bit more, and ask yourself, are you ready today to take that step? So again, it's just you're allowing them to make the decision, you're facilitating that. And when people take a step that they didn't think that they could take, that's achievement. That's success. Like, that's dopamine. That's massive. And those small wins, those small successes, they just roll. And when you're on a roll, there's motivation, there's drive, there's want and desire to want to come back and do those things.
You're creating mastery upon me.
Exactly. And, what I've said is based in our communication strategies that we teach, but it's shown up in the way that I stand, in the way that I program exercises, in the music that I've selected, in all of those things. So like, maybe I don't say anything. Maybe I know my demographic so well, and right at the end when they're feeling really tired or they're really, really low, I put on a song that I know will connect with them and boost them. When was like the last time that you were in the gym and you needed to go? You know what song you're going to go for, right? Like, what's your song? I really want to know.
It's rah, bro. So I'm doing bodybuilding training at the moment. So It's just go hard and it just sucks. But yeah, I know it's going to hurt. So I put on something. I'm like, all right.
I love it. But that's what you do, right? So again, music is another tool that we use to create connection, to create energy, to create drive. And you play the right song for the right group of people at the right time. And that's magic. You know what I mean? Like the whole room energy lifts and you feel it.
We used to have Katy Perry Fridays at the gym. Friday morning, 6 a.m. session. I remember it too well. It's like Katy Perry Friday where they'd play Raw. It's like literally the speaker would be on, someone would grab the phone and change it.
Yeah.
About like every single time the gym.
Yeah, 100%. And a ritual, like, oh, that's fine. So, there's a ritual in that as well. So rituals are also really, really great for group exercise. Do you know who does rituals really well? CrossFit.
Yes, they do. They
have really good rituals. People bag off CrossFit, but they do so many things well. And I think I said this before, but if you haven't heard, by the way, CrossFit is group exercise.
I agree.
For any CrossFitters listening to me, don't hate me. Please just listen. You're in a group. You're doing the same workout. You have an instructor. It's group exercise.
And my gym ended up being 4 group exercise classes. So we had like our beginner group, which would be kind of more individualized and learning how to train, basically, like an onboarding class. So we had a gym was DC Health Performance. We had DC Shred, which is fat loss, DC Swole, which is get big, DC Strong, which is powerlifting, right? And it was like, you're all doing the same stuff each day. We might individualize your exercise selection somewhat based on orthopedic and biomechanical needs, but it ended up turning into group exercise. We were okay with it. We were like, this is the group you're in that you're going to be exercising in. But we're not group exercise. We always said it's just group exercise at the end of it all. Just a little bit more catered because you get to pick your class.
And that's great. Like, that's a great approach. I'm not saying that everyone has to stick on a 128 BPM and start doing grapevines on the stepper, right? Like, I'm not advocating for that because I know that that's not for everybody because group exercise is so broad. Like, and I think that because of our insider industry tainted vision about group exercise, we have this like aversion to want to call ourselves group exercise. But there's way more group exercise out there than people want to think about. Like yoga is group exercise.
Boot camp,
Pilates, boot camp, small group personal training, aqua. There's a lot there.
It's all group exercise.
You're in a group, you're learning things together. There's someone in front of you teaching or helping you master something. It's group exercise. And I think to break down that stigma around, the 80s aerobics group exercise instructor, or I love Les Mills. This is not a dig at Les Mills. The Les Mills instructor standing on stage dictating to the class, to break those stigmas, we want to cut down those barriers. I want PTs coming to our courses saying they teach semi-privates or they teach a boot camp, or BJJ instructor coming up saying, I just want to learn how to be a better communicator and create experiences for everyone in my group. And that for me would create a huge shift, I think, in the way that our industry sees group exercise and the power of it. And I think that that's probably one of the fundamental ways that we can get more people involved in group exercise, because there aren't enough gyms in Australia to cater for the whole of the population. So why are we all trying to compete with each other, thinking that we're in competition when we're not? We are an alliance of people trying to get everyone healthier, fitter, mentally, like more resilient, emotionally more steady. We need to stop viewing each other as I'm not against you, I'm for you. You go do your bodybuilding training. Great. That's important. That's fantastic. I'm so glad for you. But if you ever just want to let loose, maybe you should come and do a rhythm cycle class with me and you'll have a great time, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that. And as a PT, if I didn't know the class that my client was going to, I would go do the class because I wanted to felt what biomechanically is going on in here. Do I need to give my client any, don't do shoulder press because you've got impingement, or I don't know, something like that. What's the intensity like of this class? What do I need to give my client because they love coming to this class? So how do I best program for my client knowing that they're going to go into that class rather than telling them not to go?
This is very nice to hear because as a coach, many coaches, everyone's always asked me for optimal all the time. I'm like, optimal is context, situation, time, logistically independent. And like, there's so many factors to consider in there. And I'm like, what's the best way to isolate the lats for something for in the lat pull down. And I'm like, you're working with a general population client named Susan, who doesn't give a shit about her iliac portion of her lat versus the thoracic portion. She doesn't care. And they're like, oh, is the spin class going to, make our client lose muscle? I'm like, look, if I divide clients in the 1, 2, 3, like level 1 are beginners, level 2 are habitual exercises, level 3, it's like, this is the most important thing in the world. Unless you're a level 3 client, and it's a very specific goal, I want your exercise to be orientated around that specific goal, which I think you would agree with 100%. Like, you want to be an Olympian? You got to train like an Olympian. You're a general population client. The number one rule I have for exercise is level 1, working with them, make it enjoyable. Don't give them anything they hate. And sure as hell, don't sour someone on the experience of group exercise, which they may really love going to a spin class or whatever it is, because you think it's going to affect their recovery or it's going to cause the interference effect, because you know what? They don't care.
They don't care.
They're enjoying it. They're getting cardiovascular benefits. They're getting social benefits. They're getting mental health benefits. There's 1,000 things there. They're benefiting from it. I think if everyone fought under that framework, we'd have a lot less competition and people would be a hell of a lot healthier, because they wouldn't be questioning whether going to a group fitness class or doing something else is actually going to impair on their results, which is ridiculous to think it would.
Yeah. And that's the role of a PT. Like, I'm a biomechanical specialist. I'm going to tell my client, okay, you have some kind of pre-existing condition, yet you want to go to this class. When they give you this exercise, just say you have an injury, do this one instead, because I know that I can program a little bit more personalized for you. So that's how I'm going to help you get through this class that you absolutely love going to, because it's the highlight of your week. There's no way that I'd want to strip those safety blankets off people. Even for myself, as I've come through the industry, I'm a trainer. I find training myself sometimes the most boring thing. Like, I'm not like you, Paul. I cannot do the same thing again and again. And if anyone out there is listening, I can't. Repetition is the bane of my life. I need variety. And group exercise allows me that variety. And so I teach the classes. I know what classes I'm going to be teaching. And then I can supplement my own training based off the goals. And I kind of put that in around my group exercise. And for me, that is much more fulfilling and great for my body, because now I'm actually making sure that everything is working together. The joy that I get from group exercise heavily outweighs the joy that I get when I'm training solo, unless I've been able to hold handstands, which is, it's a bit elusive sometimes, right? That kind of goal-orientated training, yeah. So I can't speak more about how I wish that there wasn't such a divide. And I really want, specifically me, Emma is really group exercise in our business, and she's great at the music and the group exercise instructor side of it. Whereas I want to appeal to people who are like me in the industry, who are the technicians, who are the PTs, who have never thought themselves to be a group exercise instructor. And I want to challenge you to the fact that you actually are. And most of the part of why group exercise works is because it's actually in our biology.
Yeah, we are wired to be social creatures.
We are. We're biologically driven to be in groups. And I don't know if you've ever felt this phenomenon before, Paul, but there is something that happens when a group moves in unison.
Coherence.
It's called entrainment. Your heart rates all start to sync. Yeah, your brain waves all start to run at the same frequency, and you get this incredible boost of endorphins. It's pretty phenomenal. So that's why I refer to concerts or music festivals as one of those ways that people do that. When the beat drops and everyone starts to bounce all together, or everyone's clapping all together in the audience. Those are the moments of entrainment that we get from being social and from enjoying ourselves with music, because that's a big key component as well. And I don't know much better than that feeling. It's so fun. It's so fun.
I did have one last question just to kind of finish it off, okay? What are 3 tips that we could actually use? You work with groups that. How can a one-on-one trainer, 3 ways that they can actually start bringing this into their situations to create a better exercise experience for clients? So I know a lot of our listeners are going to be hybrid, doing work one-on-one. Online we won't touch on today, because that'll be a very cool discussion when we do that. But what are 3 ways that a one-on-one trainer can create a better experience for their clients?
Okay. The first thing I'll say is don't discount your client's want, need, or desire to engage in group exercise. if anything, encourage it and try to understand it from a physiological, biological perspective. Try to understand what they're getting out of it in all aspects. And then you, as the excellent coach that you are, program around it. Program for performance around that. Number 2, I would say the skills of a group exercise instructor in terms of being able to communicate with people and being able to say the same thing without repeating themselves, something that all coaches can benefit from.
Yes, that is a very hard thing to do.
Yes, because we've all trained a client who just, for whatever reason, isn't getting the exercise that we've given them, and we just can't figure out why they haven't got it. And I think that there's no better trainer or educator for being able to use your words or your demonstration better than group exercise, because you just have to practice it again and again and again. You just have to do it. The third thing I would say is every time that you're engaging with your client, it is an experience. And Emma and I talk about setting intentions, and it links really closely in with their goals, right? So we all know our client goals, but our client walks in and there's no reason why you can't set an intention for the day. So it still reaches their overall goal, but maybe the intention of the day is that they need energy. And so the way that you can connect with them is by asking them some of their favorite songs. You're going to soundtrack their workout. You're going to bring the energy to them, like physically, you're going to help them bring the energy. And you facilitate this experience that still continues to work towards their goals based off what you've programmed. Or on the flip side, you notice that they're low on energy. They just need to take some downtime. How can you create an intention together to create that experience that keeps them going on this journey with you, this goal-orientated journey? And I will also say that I have quite a lot of clients now who, I don't want to say have no goals, because that's not true, but in the sense of a PT asking their clients for goals, they don't have a goal.
Yeah, they have like I want to do this on this day.
Correct.
Their overall goals.
Yes. And I think for anybody in the health and fitness industry, that's the best place to get someone to. The reason why it's the best place to get someone to, in my opinion, is because that means that exercise is part of their life. It means that they want to be there. It means they see value in you and what it is they do. And they are going to come regardless of whether they're reaching goals or not reaching goals. They're there. And that is massive for our industry. It's massive for your business. It's just huge in general. And yes, it's great for us to constantly want to seek goals. But for people in general life, they might have goals elsewhere. They might have goals to, work really hard this year in their job, career goals, or maybe their goal is just to survive motherhood or fatherhood in that first 18 months of a child's life, because there's nothing else that they can really focus on right now.
I know that for a fact.
Exactly, right? So who are we to say that they need a fitness goal? Like, we don't know what's best for them.
Help improve their life rather than be the focus of their life.
Exactly. And I love that about group exercise, because when you walk into group exercise, there's not necessarily a specific goal. And I think that PTs need to learn a little bit from that, because you don't need to have a specific goal. The goal could just be to move, it can be just to be there for the day. And
make the session.
Yeah. I think group exercise is excellent at facilitating that. I just want to be here because I enjoy being here.
That is very, very cool stuff. And there's a lot of wisdom there for a one-on-one trainer to take away and actually create better retention, better client outcomes, and a better experience for their clients. Yeah, I got that in the end there. That was the golden experience in that sentence.
Yeah, cool. If anyone wants to check out Exercise to Experience, so the link's in the show notes. Follow us on Instagram, ask us questions. We are big advocates for anything group exercise. And if you're a CrossFitter or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor and you want to put your hand up and become a group exercise instructor, please tag me. I'm really keen to see if anyone will do that.
Become the communicator and the coach.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vanessa.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Purpose-Driven Movement. We pour our hearts and souls into creating valuable and engaging content for you. We would be so grateful if you could take a moment now to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more people, and it also helps others discover our podcast. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you soon.